And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full-time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My battalion provided base security throughout the European theater from Turkey to England in the early stages of the war in Afghanistan. And that same battalion is now in Iraq.
That ain't the only time he's claimed that. Do I hear stolen valor?
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
The weapons of war that you carried in war. I believe stolen valor is a crime. Kind of interesting, ain't it? You know, in obviously it's one of the most disrespectful things that anybody could ever do. People who literally stood on the front lines. You know, I was recently, I came across a video of the sniper, I'm drawing a blank on his name now. The black guy, oh man, why am I drawing a blank on this guy's name? I can't think of his name, but some of the stories that he was telling was just absolutely amazing. You know, just listening to some of the stories and some of the experiences that he's had. You know, I'm greatly appreciative of having someone like that on our side. And for somebody like this to be lying about actually going to war is just one of the most disrespectful things and an actual crime. Congress passed a bill on this. So this is legitimately a crime.
He's back again to wage a public war of words against Tim Walz.
He abandoned us, you know. I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean, he just, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
We'll get to Barron's new message for voters in a moment. But this all starts years earlier when Barron says Walz's misleading statements about his military service first led him to come forward in the fall of 2018.
So you try to get this message out, but Minnesota's largest newspaper checks it out, says it's 100% true, but yet refuses to print.
When I hung the phone up, I said, what the hell is this, North Korea?
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress. Tom Barron was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, if this guy quit, and if I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then the foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory?
Barron would go on to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command sergeant major. All while Walz began using that title as a congressman. Barron says he first contacted Walz with his concerns, sending these letters to Washington. They all went unanswered.
But then we fast forward to the election in 2018 in Minnesota, and you try at that time to get people's attention with this story and also with what seems to be a very misleading statement that he continued to make about his service.
It kind of just sat there, you know, when he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and, you know, all this lie that he was telling. The state of Minnesota came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of lots of cards coming in the mail, you know, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
A spokesperson for the Minnesota National Guard said Walz wasn't able to retire as a command sergeant major since he failed to complete coursework and requirements related to the rank. Verified documents show the Army corrected his service record. Walz was reduced in rank to an E8 Master Sergeant after retirement and his conditional promotion. Alpha News again asked Governor Walz if he's using the Command Sergeant Major rank on his campaign website for political gain this year. A spokesperson said this has been in the news before and pointed us to a past story where Walz said, quote, "Normally this type of partisan political attack only comes from one who's never worn a uniform."
It's stolen valor is really what it is. I don't know of anybody else that's done what he's done. But we called it the truth about Tim Walz.
In 2018, Barron's gave the story the full court press.
We, retired command sergeant majors of the Minnesota National Guard, feel it is our duty and responsibility to bring forth the truth as we know it concerning his service record. I put together information on it and I sent it out to every single radio station and newspaper and TV station I could in the state. The bottom line in all of this is gut-wrenching and sad to explain. When the nation called, he quit.
Twin Cities TV stations and the Star Tribune were silent, even after Barron says the newspaper checked it all out. The Star Tribune endorsed Walz in 2018 for governor. Between lockdowns, riots, unchecked crime, and a charred police precinct, Barron's felt he had no choice but again to come forward.
And that's who some people are going to vote for. That guy. Who, when it came time to lead, he ran. And that's what he's bragging about. That is, I think anybody who has respect for our military men and women, and everybody in this country should. That is one of the most disrespectful things you could ever do right there. Absolutely shameful. And a crime. And a crime. And, also CNN kind of alluded to it. They didn't go as hard as what they should have, but they kind of alluded to it.
Walz did make a comment, speaking to a group, he's done it a couple of times, where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you. There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that is absolutely false when he said that about gun rights out there.
Yeah. Not as hard as what they should have gone after him, but, at least they're bringing it up, I guess. That's a step in the right direction, even though that's really, really shameful that we even have to be appreciative of just a little step in the right direction. So, yeah, some absolutely shameful stuff, and, he should be called out for it and have to answer for it, if not be criminally charged for it. I think he should be criminally charged for it, to be quite honest with you, because if that were to be Donald Trump, there would be criminal charges already, right? He would already be in court. So I think he should be criminally charged for it. Do I think he will be? No, because we live in a two-tiered justice system, which is why we have to get Trump back in office. These folks are no good whatsoever. I mean, he recently even said that misinformation should be a crime. Yeah, these are the same folks that were telling us Joe Biden was just fine, though. But misinformation should be a crime. What they mean to say is we're going to control what you can and cannot say, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what they're trying to say. Because if misinformation should be a crime, then what they had been doing for the past 3-4 years should have been a crime as well. Lying about the cognitive abilities of Joe Biden, right? And Tim Walz was involved in that, as well as Kamala Harris, Karine Jean-Pierre, and everyone else. I've shown you guys the videos, but misinformation should be a crime. I'm telling you guys, we have to get out in massive numbers, Massive, massive numbers. Like this video, share this video, leave a comment. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm to spread these videos out even further. Get involved. Scott Pressler, go work at a polling location as well. Anything and everything you think you could possibly think of that's legal to do, we should all be doing every single day. All right? Y'all stay safe out there. Peace and love. I'm out.